Hi, third grade. It's good to see you again. And let me tell you, after Friday's quiz, I'm really pleased to see the work that you guys are doing. Let's go ahead and keep on working hard because we have a test coming up soon. So let's get down to it. Today's lesson is a little bit different. We're going to be using long division, but we're going to be using it as a tool to find information. We're going to be finding averages, as you can see here at the top. Averages can be used for a lot of different things. Actually, you are interested in averages as a student because when you get your report card, those grades that you see on your paper is a list of the averages or an estimation of what all the scores are in a particular subject. So as a student, you're interested in this. Scientists, they look for averages. Baseball, basketball, everybody just about uses averages because you can't always give a listing of all the scores or for a particular grade or for your stats. And so an average is information that just kind of gives someone an estimation of what kind of scores or stats an athlete or a student might have. Okay, so pay attention because something that you can use, something practical. All right, so we're on page 197 and we have a math mystery, and I really like those. And it reads: a biologist tracked the caribou she saw over a 4-day period. Each day she counted a slightly different number of animals. The numbers are shown in the chart below. About how many animals could she expect to see on the 5th day? Now when it starts asking for about how many, okay, that's an estimate. It says to estimate the number of caribou, you can find an average. The average is calculated by dividing the sum of a set of numbers by the number of add-ins. Find the average number of caribou that the biologist saw during the first 4 days. Now, I went ahead and wrote down the information because it's right there in your packet, but I just wanted to talk us through it. All right, so to find the average, step number 1 is to add all of your scores or all of the numbers that you're working with. For our situation here, these are the number of caribou that she's seen for the first 4 days. All right, so the first step is to add the numbers. So 54 plus 48 plus 40 plus 35. These are the number of caribou she saw on each day. Okay, we add them all together and we get 177. Okay, now to find the average, step 2 is to divide the sum. Remember, the sum is what we call the answer when we're adding. Divide the sum by the number of add-ins. All right, now the add-ins is just a fancy word for the numbers that we're adding together. All right, so we're dividing the sum, 177. You see how I have it here in the house, by the number of add-ins. So how many numbers did we add together? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, that's why I have my 4 right here. And now we're going to go ahead and divide. Now this is where what we've been working on all chapter. And like I said, I'm really pleased with the progress that you're making. So let's go ahead and divide. All right, so remember the very first step is to begin with the first digit in our dividend. All right, 1 divided by 4 is going to be 0. I can't take any group of 4 out of 1. So I'm going to slide over and I'm going to include 17. 4 can go into 17 4 times because 4 times 4 is 16. I subtract and 17 minus 16 is 1. I compare, 1 is less than 4, so I picked the right number. So I'm going to bring down the next digit, which is a 7. And then I'm going to repeat the whole process over again. 17 divided by 4 again is 4. 4 times 4 is 16, and then I subtract, and of course it's 1 again. I compare, and of course, yes, 1 is less than 4. All right, I would bring down the next digit, but we don't have any, so instead of repeating the 1, it's just simply my remainder. Okay, so this is my work, my math that I've done. Doesn't quite mean I'm finished with the math mystery because I have to answer the question. The question was about how many animals could she expect to see on the 5th day? Well, according to my division, she could expect to see about 44 caribou. I'm not going to say 44 with a remainder of 1. You can't have 44 caribou with the remainder of 1. You either have 44 or you don't. So the answer would be 44 caribou. All right, but for our lesson, as far as finding an average, step 1, add all the numbers from your data. Take that sum and you're going to divide it by the number of add-ins. Okay? All right, so let's go ahead and start by looking at number 1. And here it's talking about Arctic temperatures. It says they can be cold. It says find the average temperature for each group of days. All right, so for number 1, let's see, I'm going to use purple here. Number 1, we have Monday. It was 37 degrees. Tuesday was 40. Let me write my numbers. See, 37. Tuesday was 40 degrees. Wednesday was 42 degrees. And then Thursday was 45 degrees. All right, so the first step, as we said before, is just simply to add. Okay, that's all of our data, so now it's time for us to add. So let's go ahead and get down to it. I'm going to take a look because I think I'll be able to add a double. Because I have 7, a 2, and a 5. I'm going to combine the 2 and the 5 to make it a 7. So I have 7 and then another 7. 7 plus 7 is 14. So I'll write my 4. I'll bring my 1 up here. All right, again, I'm going to look at my numbers first. Ooh, and this looks wonderful because here I have a 4, a 4, a 4, and then 3 plus 1 is 4. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4 groups of 4, or 4 times 4, which is 16. All right, so that was my first step, to add all of my add-ins. All right, so now I'm going to take my sum, or the answer from adding, and I'm going to divide it. So over here, right here, I have 164, and I'm going to divide it by the number of add-ins. 1, 2, 3, 4. By 4. All right, so now I'm going to divide. 1 divided by 4, no, I can't do that. So I'm going to go ahead and include the next digit, 16. 16 divided by 4, well, that's one of my 4 multiplication facts. 4 can go into 16 4 times, because 4 times 4 is 16. I subtract, I have 0 left over. And of course, when I compare, 0 is less than 4. So I go ahead and do the next step, which is to bring down the next digit. So 4, and I start all over again. 4 divided by 4 is 1. All right, and I multiply. 1 times 4 is 4. Don't mind the dog. I subtract, and I have 0 left over. 0 is less than 4, so we pick the right numbers. So to answer the question, the average temperature for this week was 41 degrees Fahrenheit, because each one of those items was given in Fahrenheit. Okay, so that's number 1. All right, let's go ahead and look at number 2 as well. All right. Okay, here we go. For number 2, still working with Arctic temperatures. Oh, I've already written down the numbers. Friday, the temperature was 83 degrees. On Saturday, the temperature was 89 degrees. And then Sunday, it was a balmy 95. Don't know what happened, but it got really, really hot. All right, so in order to find the average of these 3 temperatures, I'm going to add them. That's the first thing I'm going to do. Let me get my marker. All right, so I don't know if there's any rhyme or reason for the numbers, the order. So I'm just going to go from the top to the bottom. 3 plus 9 is 12, and then 12 plus 5 is 17. All right, my 7, put my 1 up here. All right, let's see. I'm going to combine my 1 and my 9 because I like working with 10. So this is 10, and then 8 and 8 is 16. Well, 10 plus 16 is going to give me 26. All right, so my sum is 267. This sum is going to go inside of the house, 267. And now I'm going to divide by the number of add-ins that I had. I started with 1, 2, 3. So it's being divided by 3. Okay, now it's just time for me to divide. All right, 2 divided by 3, can't do that. So I'm going to include the next digit, which is 26. 26 divided by 3 is 8. All right, after I divide, I multiply. 8 times 3 is 24. And now it's time for me to subtract. 6 minus 4 is 2. And of course, 2 minus 2 is 0. 2 is less than 3, so I picked the right number. So I'm going to bring it down. What am I bringing down? I'm bringing down the next digit, which is a 7. All right, so now I'm going to repeat the whole thing over again using 27. 27 divided by 3 is 9. So I put my 9 right here above that 7 that I brought down, because that was brought down to be the number that I'm dividing by. And then I multiply. 9 times 3 is 27. When I subtract, I get 0. And of course, 0 is less than 3, so we picked the right number. All right, so the average of these 3 numbers is 89. And whenever you're finding your average is not going to be the highest number, and it's not going to be the lowest number. It's going to be a number somewhere in between. So that's a good way to see if your answer is reasonable. Okay, so as long as my average is not the highest number or the lowest number, but somewhere in between, it's pretty good to be comfortable in thinking that you have the right answer. All right. Okay, let's go ahead and go on to the next ones. All right, for numbers 3 through 5, they've just given us some numbers to work with. So no math mysteries, but that's okay. All right. Let's see, I'm supposed to be using blue for this next one. All right, so for number 3, we're working with a group of numbers. Now, in your book, they've listed them in a different order. Now, we know it doesn't matter the order that you add them because of the order property of addition. It doesn't matter what order you arrange the numbers, you're always going to come up with the same sum. I've arranged them with the larger numbers on top, the numbers that have the most digits, because it makes it easier for me to arrange the other numbers with fewer decimals right in line, okay? All right, so you might arrange them differently, and that's okay. All right, so let's start. In the ones place, I have a 2, a 9, and a 7. I don't know if it really makes too much of a difference, but I'm going to start with 9 and 7, which is 16. And then 16 plus 2 is 18. That's my 8. I bring up my 1. 1 and 1 is 2. 2 and 3 is 5. And 5 and 6 is 11. So I'll write my 1. I'll bring this one up here. And then 1 plus 1 plus 1 is 3. All right, so we have 318. So this is my sum. This is the number that will go inside of the house. All right. Now, what number goes outside of the house is the number of numbers that I added together. So I began with 1, 2, 3 numbers. So that's my divisor. Okay, 318 divided by 3. All right, so let's go ahead and get going. Looking at the first digit, can I take a group of 3 out of 3? Sure can. I could take 1. All right, 1 times 3 is 3. I subtract, I get 0. Is 0 less than 3? Yes, it is. So I can go into the next step, which is B, bring it down. And I'll be bringing down my 1. Okay, because that's the next digit in my dividend. How many groups of 3 can I take out of 1? 0. All right, so I'm going to write my 0 here. It's important that that 0 holds its place because it's holding a place in the tens. Okay, so it has value. Even though we think of it as 0, that 0 has value. All right, so now that I've divided, I need to multiply. 0 times 3 is 0. I subtract, and I have 1 left over. All right, I compare. Is 1 less than 3? Of course it is. So I go to the next step, which is B, bring it down, and it's the 8. Okay, I have to make sure I bring my numbers down in order. Everyone has to wait their turn. So now I'm going to repeat the whole process over again using 18. So it's 18 divided by 3. 18 divided by 3 is 6. Okay, that's one of my 3 multiplication facts. 6 times 3 is 18. And when I subtract, I have 0 left over. Now, 0 is less than 3, so I picked the right number. And so I would bring down the next digit, but there's nothing left here. So I'm going to not repeat, and I don't have a remainder, so I'm just simply done. And so the average of these 3 numbers is 106. Again, take note that this is not the highest number and it's not the lowest number. It's somewhere in between. Okay, so I feel comfortable saying that this is a reasonable answer. And I will say in your directions, it does give you permission to use a calculator to check your sum. Okay, because if you add and you get the wrong sum, everything is thrown off. Okay, so yes, go ahead and use your calculator so you can make sure that you're starting with the right dividend. All right, so let's go ahead and go on to number 4. Okay, here's our group of numbers. Again, I've arranged my numbers with the numbers that have the most digits on top. Okay, this is just good form. Your numbers might be in a slightly different order. That's fine because the order property tells us that it doesn't matter what order you put them in, you always come up with the same sum. All right, so let's go ahead and start adding. Let's see. I am going to do this. I'm going to add 3 and 1 because that's 4. And then 4 plus 6 is 10. And 10 plus 8 is 18. I like it when I can work with a group of 10. All right, and I brought that 1 over to my tens place, and now I'm going to add. 1 plus 1 is 2, and 2 plus 2 is 4. All right, so this sum is the dividend that I will work with. So I'll put my 48 right here. But the question is, what's my divisor? Now remember, the divisor is the number of numbers that you added together to begin with. Well, I had 1, 2, 3, 4 numbers. Okay, so 4 is my dividend. All right, so now let's just divide. 4 divided by 4 is 1. Okay, and I multiply. 1 times 4 is 4. I subtract and I get 0. Is 0 less than 4? Well, of course it is. So I do the next step, B. You know what I'm going to say. Bring it down, which is the 8. And I repeat. I'm going to start the whole process over again. This time's 8 divided by 4, which is 2. Because 2 times 4 is 8. And I subtract and I have 0. 0 is less than 4, so I could bring down the next digit, but there's nothing there. So instead of repeating, I would have a remainder, but it's 0. So I'm done. All right, so the average of these numbers is 12. Again, 12, it's not the highest number on there, but it's definitely not the lowest. It's somewhere in between. So again, I feel pretty confident that I have the right average. All right, then one more. All right, number 5. Okay, I have my numbers written here. Again, you might have arranged them a little bit differently. That's okay. All right, let's go ahead and start adding. Oh, I know what order I'm going to add them in, though. I have 1 and 8, which is 9. And then 5 plus 4, which is 9. So I have 2 groups of 9, which is 18. I write my 8. I bring my 1 over here. All right, I have a 9. So I'm going to, in a 1, so I'm going to go ahead and put those together. I like making groups of 10. So this is 10. Of course, 0 doesn't change anything. And the 1 and 7 is 8. So I have 8 plus 10, which is 18. I bring my 1 up here. And let's see, I'm going to do 1 plus 2 is 3, and 3 plus 3 is 6, and then 6 plus 1 is 7. So my sum is 788. This sum comes right here into my house. That's my dividend, 788. All right, what's my divisor? It's the number of numbers that I just got finished adding. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4. That's how many numbers I added together. So 4 goes out here outside the door. And now we divide. Starting with the 7, how many groups of 4 can you take out of 7? I can only take out 1. Maybe you're tempted to say 2, but remember 4 times 2 is 8. That's too much. So I can only take out 1 set. Now I multiply. 1 times 4 is 4. I subtract. That's step number 2. 7 minus 4 is 3. Now I need to compare. Is 3 less than 4? Yes. As long as it's slower, you're good. So we picked the right number. So I'm going to bring it down, which is the 8 right here, the one right behind the 7. So now I'm going to repeat with 38. So it's 38 divided by 4. That's 9, because 9 times 4 is 36. All right, now when I subtract, I get 2, and I need to compare to make sure that I do have the right number, and 2 is less than 4. So yeah, we're in good shape. So now that I've compared, I'm going to bring it down, and I'm bringing down the next digit again, which is an 8. All right, and I'm going to repeat the whole process over again. All right, so 28 divided by 4. I can think of a 4 multiplication fact that will hit it right on the head. It's 7. Because 7 times 4 is 28. And when I subtract, I have 0 left over, and of course 0 is less than 4. I would bring down the next digit, but I ran out of numbers, so I'm not going to repeat. I guess you could say that 0 is your remainder, but 0 is not going to help here. But that means I'm done. So I have 197 as my average. That means that's a good estimate of what these numbers are right here. It's not the highest number, but it's definitely not the lowest number. It's somewhere in between, 197. All right, so to find your average, step number 1 is to add all of your stats, your scores, whatever it is. Add them all together. Once you've added them, you're going to take that sum, and it becomes your dividend. You will divide your dividend by the number of scores that you had, or your stats, or your temperatures, whatever it is. And then you're going to divide. All right, that's Elena. You can go by. All right, and then you're going to divide. After you divide, that your quotient it represents your average, okay? All right, so for today's lesson, you're going to go ahead and complete number 6, and then for numbers 7 through 10, you have a few more finding averages. So go ahead and work on those. Again, it does say to use your calculator to check your sum, okay? I'm not asking you to use your calculator to divide, okay, because we've been working on that all chapter. Use your calculator to check your sum to make sure that you have that number right, because if this isn't right, nothing else is going to be right. All right, and then for the review, you're going to complete that and then submit that on a Google form for me. And all right, and then for the other one, 6 through 10, there'll be answers for you on a doc so you can see how you did. Again, let me know. I'm very curious to see how you're doing. All right, so until I see you, keep working hard, third graders. We work hard so later on we can play hard. All right, I'll see you later. Bye-bye.